everyone.
Good evening and welcome to the May 7th Board of Selectmen's meeting. This is our second for the week. This is a remote participation only meeting. Please note this meeting is being recorded and will be available shortly hereafter for scheduled and on-demand viewing on any smartphone or tablet device. If anyone else is recording the meeting, please notify me. Pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 18, and the Governor's March 23, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Board of Selectmen is being conducted via remote participation. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by calling the phone number 1-508-945-4410, and the conference ID number is 428-494-984, followed by the hashtag. Or join the meeting online via Microsoft Teams through the link in the posted agenda. Despite our best efforts, we may not be able to provide for real-time access, and we will post a record of this meeting on the town's website as soon as possible. Okay, so we're going to go right to public announcements and agenda item requests. I do want to remind people that I have developed a policy here that I want to reiterate about how people are commenting or asking questions on agenda item requests and public announcements. I'll do a roll call of who would like to comment on that agenda item or have an agenda item request. I'll make a list and then I will call on each of you individually. You will please wait your turn and wait to be acknowledged by me before you begin to speak. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I think yes. You need to call a roll of the selectmen.
Thank you for the reminder, yes. Dean. Okay. I'd like to call a roll of the selectmen present at the meeting. Selectman Kokolas.
Here.
Selectman Nicastro.
Present.
Selectman Metters.
Here.
Selectman Dykens.
Here.
Thank you very much. So all selectmen are present, and we have various staff, including the town manager, at the meeting. All right, so there's a couple of things that I'd like to make an announcement about if I can find my papers. I just want to remind everyone that Monday, May 11th, from 6 to 9 p.m., we will be hosting a listening session, a community forum, where the public may give us some feedback on how we are preparing to reopen our town, deal with some of our most beloved summer events. And you can go to the town website and there'll be information on how to join that meeting. If you cannot join the meeting, there is an email address where you can send us your comments. They may or may not be read at the community forum, but rest assured that each one of the selectmen will get your emails and will take them under consideration. Also, I'd like to let everybody know that I've accepted an appointment to the Cape Cod Open the Cape Regional Task Force that's organized by our leadership, Senator Sears and Sarah Peak. So I'll be attending those meetings, and there is it's very similar to what we're trying to do on a local level, but this will be a regional effort, and we're trying to get across the board consensus on how to deal with managing opening the Cape eventually and have some consistencies from town to town. I'll be sending Shauna the link. There is a comment email. It's a Google form, so it's pretty complicated, and I don't want to rattle it off tonight, but it'll be, I'll give it to Shauna to place in our on our website. Additionally, since the Board of Selectmen talked back in March about ways to help the help the community through the COVID-19 pandemic issues, and consequently subcommittee met, and consequently the Chatham Coronavirus Impact Fund was created. I just want to let people know that they should contact monomoy.org if they're in need and need assistance during this hard time. I just had a very shocking statistic sent to me this morning that said SNAP benefits for people in need were up 400% on Cape Cod, and that's a very significant issue, including people that are on unemployment. So take advantage of the fund if there's monies available, and the criteria is online and available for all. Saying all that, I'd ask the Board of Selectmen if they have any public announcements or agenda requests themselves. Let me just go down the list. Selectman Kokolas.
No, Madam Chair.
Selectman Nicastro.
Yes, Madam Chair, I have an announcement and an agenda item request. The announcement is just to encourage everyone to contact the town clerk's office, either by phone or if you go on the website, because you can request a mail ballot for the town election on June 25th. So you don't have to vote in person on the 25th, but you can easily vote by mail. I've done that myself. I've requested the ballot. It's a very simple form. My agenda item request relates to the procedure for dealing with matters that we might want to defer from the June 22nd town meeting to a fall town meeting. Recently, town council advised that if there's an article on the warrant, whether it's an original article from the selectmen or a petition article, that if no motion is offered, it dies at the annual town meeting, and that the procedure for keeping those articles viable would be to offer a motion to defer their consideration to a special town meeting, which has a date certain. And I'm thinking not just of the petition articles, of which there are 8, but of the 1610 Main Street article, which is the Selectmen's article. And I know we're going to be dealing with petition articles later on tonight. So I'd like to request an agenda item, and I'd like to ask if it could be put on the agenda from May 18th, which would be next week, because that's our last meeting in May, for the board to consider calling a special town meeting in late September 2020 for the purpose of taking up matters that were withdrawn from the warrant for the 2020 annual town meeting, and matters that we or others in our town meeting might want to defer pursuant to a motion for consideration from the annual town meeting to a specifically established dated town meeting in September. I would say that if we do that, I certainly would be one person that might want to consider offering that motion at town meeting. So I think we need to set, this bottom line is, I think we need to set the date for a special town meeting in the fall so that we can accomplish that deferral consistent with the advice of town council. Sorry for being long-winded.
No, not at all. Thank you, Dean. Selectman Metters, do you have any public announcements or agenda item requests?
I am all set this evening. Thank you.
Okay, great. Selectman Dykens?
I'm all set. Thank you, Shireen.
All right, great. So I'm just going to ask, I'm going to poll the remote participants to please call out your name if you'd like to make a public announcement or agenda item request. Okay, hearing none, we're going to move on to our agenda. And I am looking at, just let me get organized for a second. Our new business, consider revised IMA for sealer of weights and measures with the town of Barnstable fiscal year 2021 budget item. and that will be presented by the Director of Community Development. Selectman Metters, did you want
Yes,
to make?
Madam Chair, for, on a precautionary measure, I'm going to recuse myself from this item. They are the entity that does my annual inspections and compliance requirements. So I'm here if anyone needs any direct questions from a user of it. But other than that, I think I'm going to sit back and recuse myself from the deliberation. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. So Director of Community Development, Donovan, are you present?
I am. Thank you, Madam Chair. Can you hear me okay?
We can, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. So this agenda item relates to, again, a new intermunicipal agreement between the town of Barnstable and the town of Chatham regarding weights and measures. In January of 2013, the town entered into a memorandum of understanding with the town of Barnstable to provide services relating to weights and measures. And since that time, Barnstable has been collecting the fees from the businesses in order to cover the costs of the program. Unfortunately, those fees no longer cover the cost. So Barnstable has asked Chatham, among other communities on the Cape that they represent, to contribute financially to the program. And as you'll see in the memo that I provided, the cost to each town coincide with the number of devices requiring inspection. And Chatham's fee for FY21 will be $10,762.50 and will increase each year by cost per inspection or 2%, whichever is greater. Also on the call this evening is the director of the program for the town of Barnstable, Richard Scally, and he can answer additional questions the board may have relating to the program as they run it. So.
Thank you, Katie, and welcome, Mr. Scally.
Yes, thank you.
How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Good. So, so we need to discuss matters of the agreement, and I'll put it out to my board for discussion. Selectman Kokolas, do you have any comment on this or questions?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair, and welcome, Katie. I do have just two questions. I don't have a problem with this, except that I noticed that the Outer Cape, you go from Wellfleet all the way out to P-Town, they're not on it. I was just wondering what they do. That's my first one. And then the second one is, this is a 25-year agreement, and I understand every 3 years we get to look at it with, and there's an escalation cost. Could you go, or maybe the program manager could just talk about that a little bit? Because I don't know, yeah, that's a long time with an escalation clause.
Sure.
Yes.
One thing I will, go ahead, Richard, I'll let you start.
No, actually, just to answer your first question with regards to the Outer Cape, the way that the statute is written, any town under 5,000 would be able to contract with the state to be able to have them provide the services. The state would then bill them for those services under 5,000. So those other towns, Wellfleet and further down, are all handled by the state. The state has potentially in the past contracted with other cities and towns to do that with their 18 to 20,000 in population. However, that has changed since with the state. They are no longer able to do that as well, and they have been eliminating those contracts as well. Their fees are higher in terms of an hourly rate that they charge the town to do that, and so that's the answer to that question with regards to the smaller cities and towns. Your second question had to do. Remind me what the second question was. I've forgotten what you said.
It's a 25-year contract with escalation clauses.
Yes.
Although every 3 years we get to look at it. I was just wondering, that's a pretty long time with escalation.
The only reason why it says 25 years is that's the maximum that we could actually contract with you under an IMA. So we put that in there just because that's the maximum allowed. It does not have to be 25 years. We will review it every 3 years with you. We also, there's a clause in there that allows you to cancel within a 90-day period of time. As well us, if we decide in 90 days we don't want to do this anymore, you don't want to do it anymore for any reason, we are, both can get out of the agreement, either town. You can make the term any length you'd like it to be. 25 years is just what's allowed under the maximum.
Yeah, I got it. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Selectman Nicastro, do you have any questions or comments for
Yeah,
on this matter?
thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Mrs. Scully, for participating. I did read the materials, and I know there was an explanation as to the calculation of the fee, but for the benefit of, and I'm not sure I fully understood it, frankly, but for my benefit and the benefit of those who are watching this meeting, could you just help us understand how you get to the, was it 12,000, Katie? I think it was for the first year.
10,000. Yeah,
Okay.
10,000.
Yeah.
So we worked with our finance department here to look at our costs and the amount of money that we bring in over the past 21 years. This has been a 21-year program that we started this in 1999. We only started contracting with Chatham in 2013. Looking at the cost for personnel and what benefits that go along with the personnel as well. Looking at our regular costs for operating costs. So over these past 21 years, we have been able to cover those costs with the fees. However, we have not included retirement in any of those costs. We have not included any expenses for replacing vehicles, which are quite expensive. And so at this point in time in the last 2 years, we were unable to cover what that is. So we came up with a formula in order to look at it. The only way we can come up with a formula was to look at what is definitely would happen on a year-to-year basis, because what happens is we have inspections for devices, but we also have non-fee-based expenses, which are fines and violations, and those are not a defined amount depending on what we find year to year. So we used the formula of the devices because we know in Chatham in particular, we have 60 to 62 businesses that we actually inspect every year in Chatham. And so we went basically by a percentage. What percentage of the total devices do we inspect in Chatham? And so our total number of devices that we inspect is almost 3,900. And the amount of devices in Chatham are
178.
178. So we just divided it up by what the costs would be for our calculated losses, and to be able to have a cushion in terms of what we would be able to put into the fund to replace a vehicle, should we need to replace a vehicle, plus the retirement as well. So that's how we figured that to be.
Thank you for that. It's curious that the town of Falmouth has only 37.
So Falmouth actually has a different agreement with us. They have their own part-time inspector. However, for years we have inspected just their oil trucks. So those 37 is the other 37 meters on their oil trucks. That's all that and they have obviously a reduced cost because of the limited amount of devices.
Okay. And the final question, so this contract that Katie, you're presenting, this is the same contract that the other 8, I guess there are 8, it's more than 8 towns, have agreed to going forward. So are we kind of the last ones that haven't decided yet, or maybe been official?
I have 8 of the 10 towns that have signed on.
Okay.
You and Harwich are the last 2.
Okay. It's the
Harwich has, same agreement.
Okay.
Over the past 21 years, everyone had a varied agreement. We've now combined it into one. Everyone has the same terms, same amount of time, all that. Yep.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I have a quick, so every other town has done the 25-year agreement?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. All right.
8 of the, yep.
8 of the
8 of the
ones that have
10.
signed.
Yep.
Okay.
So far.
Jeff, do you have any questions or comments for?
Yeah, just a couple comments. I'm not worried about the 25 years. It's a long time. With a 90-day out, it's moot, so I'm comfortable there. Everybody, I'm thrilled that Selectman Nicastro asked the questions that he asked, because I calculated the unit cost in Chatham at $60.48 and the unit cost in Harwich at at 48.62. So $60 versus $48. But now I understand it, so I'm good to go. It's the type of devices that you're testing, and just want to make sure we're paying the lowest fair share that we ought to pay there, Mr. Scalio. Thank you. I'm familiar with the
Absolutely.
program. I think I was on the board when it started back in 2013, so I'm sort of familiar with it, my distant past. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Great. And would any of the board members like to offer a motion on this if there's no other questions from the board? And then we'll move to the remote participants for questions.
Madam Chair, it's Dean. I move that the town enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the town of Barnstable for participation in their weights and measures program.
Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, that was Jeff. Okay, I'll take a roll call of any buddy remotely participating who'd like to has a comment or a question about this matter. Hearing none, I'll take a roll of the vote. Selectman Kokolas,
Aye.
Selectman Nicastro,
Aye.
Selectman Dykens,
Aye.
and the chair says aye, and we have one recusal. Okay, thank you very much. And
Thank
we'll
you.
see you in 25 years. Or
If we're
no.
all here, yes.
Yes, all right.
Thank you
Take
very
care.
much.
Yes, thank you very much for everything. And thank you, Katie.
Thank you.
Okay, so our next item is COVID-19 financial planning, town manager's proposed fiscal year 2021 operating and capital budget review, and then consequently transmittal to the finance committee. So Finance Director Halela, welcome.
Yes, good afternoon, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, Board of Selectmen. Yes, tonight we're talking about the different articles that you have to place on the warrant and take recommendations on. The town manager and myself have gone through all the budgets, both the operating budget and the capital budget, looking for further reductions based on your comments from last week. And we're happy to report that we have found additional savings within the budgets, whether we can defer things to a later town meeting, perhaps in September, sometime in the fall, or to a future annual town meeting. But we have identified quite a few reductions and or deferrals. So basically the synopsis is we have additional municipal budgetary reductions of almost just over $274,000. We're happy to report that the Monomoy Regional School Committee has reduced their budget, and that's additional savings to the town of Chatham. And then looking at our local estimated receipts and talking in consultation with our financial advisors, we had projected them back on April 27th at 52% of the prior year actuals. And combing through those again and looking at everything, we've raised those to 57% of prior year actuals, and we're comfortable with that number. So again, that decreases the amount that is on the tax levy. So I do have a little presentation, and I can run through that right now, going through the information that was presented in the board of the packet, so some of the public can see some of the items that we've done. So I'm going to share my screen now, and hopefully this will work. And please let me know that you can see that.
Not yet, Alex.
Not yet. Okay. I have share screen up. Let's try this one.
That works.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
And this, getting used to this remote participation. I'm so used to standing in front of you doing these presentations. Now I'm sitting at my computer doing them. Okay, so again, the town manager and I, as I said, have gone through the budgets, and we just want to provide it, we're calling this our coronavirus financial plan updates as we react to COVID-19 and review everything that we had planned back and presented back in January through February and March, and again on April 27th. So again, we showed this slide the last time. We know that our financial world is uncertain, and that we need to start planning for a possible 6 to 18-month recession. And then looking at that, those two items is why we're here tonight with pared down budgets going forward. Just to report on where we are as of yesterday or today, so far the town has expended $584,000 and change in COVID-related expenses. That does include some of the regular wages for staff because we need to track those funds and those wages so we can relate the time to equipment for possible reimbursement from FEMA. And again, we're eligible for 75% reimbursement, and we're looking for any additional matches that we might get to reduce the town's portion of this funding. So again, $584,410 in COVID-related expenses. And we still have more to go if we're looking at when we reopen and providing the best protection for employees and for the public. So we'll keep on updating the board as to those expenses. So moving forward to FY 2021, again, beginning July 1st, 2020, right around the corner, through June 30th, 2021, the annual town meeting articles that we are looking for review and recommendation tonight, the FY 2021 operating budget, the Monomoy Regional School budget, the FY 2021 capital budget, the dredging capital article, the child care voucher program, the Eldridge Public Library building shell, and also a reduced OPEB funding. Some of these won't require your votes tonight, but I do list them as we have either reduced and changed these, or we felt that they were important to bring forward for the board to focus on tonight, and the reason why we've kept them on the town meeting warrant. So again, priority funding. We reviewed all budget items for FY 2021 in the context of providing relief to all taxpayers through the reduction of the amount raised through the tax levy, and then also what are our core services moving forward. So right into the FY 2021 operating budget. Back on February 24th, it was presented at $32,552,330. Today, on May 7th, we've found reductions. It's now presented at $31,826,211. That's a 2.82% increase over the FY 2020 budget. And that's compared to back on February 24th, we were looking at a 5.36% increase. So again, under 3% increase for FY 2020. Back when we originally presented, we were looking at new staff. Right now, there is no new staffing recommended for the FY 2021 budget. So we've identified reductions of $726,118 since originally presented. And important to that is the proposed operating budget is funded by $31,257,011 from the tax levy and $569,200 of available funds. So a large reduction in the amount on the tax levy from when it was originally presented. And part of that reduction, again, talking about our local estimated receipts, pre-COVID-19, we were estimated 80% of prior year actual, just over $7 million. Our forecast now is at $4,772,349, or 57% of our prior actuals. So that's a decline in revenues of $2,235,000. However, when we presented this to the board back in April, there was concern that we did not have any excess levy capacity. Now, with the reductions and increasing that forecast from the 52% to the 57%, we do have excess levy capacity, so we are projecting less of an impact on the taxpayer and the tax rate. So I'd like to talk about the operating budget right now. If you have any specific questions, we had a lot of detail in your packet showing the adjustments of 726,000 by the different departments and the different areas from general government, public safety, community development, natural resources, et cetera, to make up that 726. And the town manager and I are happy to answer any questions you may have on individual items.
Sharon, you're on mute.
Okay, I'm back. Thank you, Alex.
Yeah.
That was a good report. Appreciate the effort that you guys have made in reducing the operating budget. Just want to find out from my board some comments. Jeff, do you want to comment on
Yes.
this first?
Yeah, just a question, a comment. I mean, the operating budget's down, decreased 726, 118, but that's coming off the tax rate, if you will, off the levy, I should say. But is the lion's share of that the 500 grand for dredging that's being shifted from the tax levy to free cash?
No, this is actually just in the operating budget. So this shows the amount of coming off the tax levy just in the operating budget. So not the dredging at all on this one. So, but the dredging does have the effect on the overall reduction to the 3.3% rather than a 7.74% increase to the tax rate that we were looking at previously.
Yes, because what we usually budget, we have budgeted that in the past in the operating budget, or at least on the tax levy. Have we not? The dredging?
Yeah, it is correct that the dredging has typically comes from the tax levy. However, it's usually as a separate warrant article
Right.
outside of the operating budget. So this is strictly the reductions of 726,000. It has nothing to do with the dredging. It's strictly in the operating budget.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions, Jeff?
Not at present. Not right this
Okay.
second. Yeah.
Okay. Corey, any questions for Alex?
Oh, I did have one.
No real question. Well, just a comment. I mean, I know the estimated forecast for the local receipts at 57% was a slight bit lower than I was hoping for. I guess I was being a little more optimistic. But what was the driving factor? Basically, I'm not going a little bit higher.
Again, to be very conservative with our local estimated receipts, not knowing what's going to happen right now. If the budget is approved at the 31,826,000 and change, we can always increase those local estimated receipts, seeing how we do for the last 2 months of the fiscal year and in the first 2 months of the next fiscal year prior to setting the tax rate. And we would look to do that to provide relief to the taxpayers. But again, not knowing what's going to happen and, worst case scenario, cutting those hotel, motel, meals tax, the recreation receipts. If we don't have recreation programs, if the beaches don't open and we don't charge for people parking at the beaches, that's a big hit, and those are our major revenue sources.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Corey. Selectman DeCastro?
Yeah, thank you. Alex, just following up on that exchange with Corey. So if the receipts come in higher than 57%, let's say they come in at 65%, and you won't know that until close to the end of FY21, right? 2021.
That's correct.
So when you're talking about an adjustment downward on the tax rate, that would be for FY22.
All right, I'm trying to explain.
Is there a mechanism for providing relief to the taxpayers midterm in FY 2020 if the receipts come in higher?
No, not as we usually plan, because we issue our we set the tax rate in the fall. We're a semi-annual tax bill, so we're not quarterly. If we were quarterly, we could set the tax rate later in the year, but we are not a quarterly billing, so we usually set it in the fall. But again, seeing how we do, our biggest receipts for our hotel motel tax and meals tax are September, and so we should have an idea, knowing how June receipts come in, because that will cover April, May, and, that will cover March, April, and May receipts, which I expect to be low. And then June, July, and August will come in September, but we'll know from the beach receipts. I think that's the big unknown right now, what's going to happen with that. So again, being conservative. Now, this would not have, once we set the tax rate, it doesn't matter how local estimated receipts come in. If they come in greater than that 57%, they would close to free cash, and then that would be available for FY 2022.
But you're going to be setting the tax rate presumably in between September and October for FY 2020?
We typically set the tax rate in August, so we can get the tax bills out for the statutory mailing date of October 1st.
Well, I'm pressing this because I really wanted to see if there was some possibility that if the receipts come in higher than 57%, as you get toward the end of the summer, will we have some window in which we might be able to make an adjustment on the numbers so that the tax rate comes in lower than we might otherwise? Or is that overly optimistic? Or idealistic, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, I think that that's why we're forecasting this conservative, although we've raised it from the 52%, a conservative projection right now. However, as I said, if we look at the last 3 months or 2 months of fiscal year 2020, we'll see how those come in, and then we'll see what the trend is for the receipts in July and the receipts in August. If it seems that they're going to be stronger than the 57% in these categories, again, specifically the recreation revenues, it is possible that we could raise that and then reduce the impact on the tax rate.
And as I read the material, you've consulted with our financial advisors on this?
Yes.
Do you know what some of the other towns on the Cape are doing in terms of their estimates? I mean, everybody's different. We're probably more heavily invested in this than some other communities.
Everything I've seen from my peers has indicated that they are estimating declines in the hotel motel as well as the beach and recreation receipts. Meals still is kind of up in the air right now, but I think it is prudent to anticipate a drop in those receipts, not knowing how social distancing will affect restaurants. If they can only open for half their patrons, that would have a big impact on our meals tax.
Okay.
And there has also been, I think, some discussion. I thought I read something that some restaurants were looking to have that meals tax waived. So then that would really cut that back because we wouldn't have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Alex. No additional questions, Madam Chair.
Okay. All right. Selectman Kokolas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Alex. And I thought what you provided was easy to understand, and actually Corey and Dean pushed on the point I was going to ask you about on if in fact our numbers come in better like we expect, at least for this fiscal year, and as we go into the next, is there a way to take a look and possibly change the tax rate? And the other, as I recall too, that you set the tax rate based on a number of parameters, which we've seen here. I would like to commend you in a lot of ways. If I read the budget carefully, and I think you made the point, this is really, most of the expenses on this budget are current 2020 expenses. You haven't seen increases much at all. And included in that 2.82% increase is about $735,000, or just about that much, of budget of those things that we have to fund based on what agreements we have and contractual agreements and so forth. And that's something we didn't see as much of as I recall last year. And if you just want to, I like numbers. You look at the number difference between last February, last year's budget and this year's budget. We're talking somewhere in the neighborhood of $500,000. And yet included in our 2.82% is the $735,000 worth of things that we don't have any control over. I don't know if you want to make a comment on that, but I think that's pretty darn good, especially when you consider how much money has come down, and that we're still able, although you haven't said it yet, we're still able to have $2.1 million worth of free cash. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Oh, you're welcome. Jeff, did you have another question? I heard you muttering back there. Jeff?
Yeah, the only other question I had is I was thinking, how much headroom did we create in the tax levy that we're not using, Alex?
Right now, we are projecting $1.5 million of excess levy capacity.
All right, good. Thank you. That's good.
Okay. All right. Do we want to make a recommendation on this now? Is that what you're asking for, Alex?
Madam Chair, you can either do it now, or if you'd like me to run through the entire presentation, because again, it all does tie into the tax rate and the use of funds. So I asked for recommendations, I think, at the end of the overview, but I thought asking questions while we go along on each item is probably a better way.
Okay, I'm fine with that. Proceed.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. We should ask the public remote participants if they have any questions on this item. So sorry about that, Alex. Are there any remote participants that have any questions on this item? Please speak up. Okay, hearing none. Item 2.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Item 2 is the Monomoy Regional School District budget assessment to Chatham. And we're pleased to report that this is now at $9,019,089. So this is a decrease of about $34,000 to the town of Chatham. And again, the school committee voted a reduced budget on April 30th, and they were going to use more excess and deficiency, which is their available funds, to offset their ELA program. So again, that offsets the amount that is assessed to the towns of Chatham and Harwich. So it's a total decrease in their budget of $119,798 from the FY 2020 budget. So 1.31 decrease. So again, Chatham's assessment is now $9,019,089, down from the $9,053,203.
Okay. Anything further, Alex, on that? Okay.
Nope, that's it.
Okay. Any comments from my board? Selectman Kokolas, do you have any questions on the?
No, Madam Chair.
Selectman Castro? Dean, are you still there? You might be muted, Dean. All right. Selectman Matters, any questions?
No, I'm all set on this one. Thank you.
Okay. How about you, Jeff? Any questions on this?
No, good job to the school committee, and hopefully Harwich is comfortable as well.
Yeah, okay. Dean, are you there to respond? Okay. Thank you, Alex. We should probably move on.
Selectman Castro? I don't have any.
Okay,
comment.
thank you. Thanks.
Dean, are you still?
Go ahead, Alex.
Yep. I think I froze for a second. Okay.
Yeah, we all did.
Okay, the capital budget, and again, this is the capital budget with further reductions that we've identified since we last discussed this. We did provide a separate memo for the capital budget, so this is different from the amount that was in our original memo dated May 5th, and we did provide that separately to you yesterday. So I would ask you to refer to the memo of May 6th. So this is showing the capital budget at a total amount of $2,324,145. And the town manager and myself, again, went through items that we thought could be deferred or further reduced. And what we say deferred is that, you know, for a special town meeting, we would be asked that these would be funded at that time when we have a better idea of where we are and what's going on. So now the capital budget as presented, it represents 6.7% of the operating budget. And the total reductions since the capital budget was presented is now $552,500. And these are the list of the reductions that have been made since we first proposed the capital budget back on February 24th. And you can see the rundown. However, there is an increase in the property management line item, and that's for items related to COVID-19 to provide some of those protections that may be necessary. So I think you've seen most of these items previously, but we did take out the universal keying, and the cemetery fence repair has been deferred. That has a dedicated funding source. And then the Fish Pier packing house for packing house roof for $65,200 can also be deferred at this time. So I know in your in the memo there's quite a length that you can see the original amounts that were requested and then what's being recommended as of today. And then to go back, just the funding source here, and you can see highlighted, the funding source of free cash has been reduced from the original amount down to $2,074,145. Again, preserving some of that free cash, which can be used for other capital items such as dredging, as will be discussed coming up later.
Okay, Alex, is there any more to this portion
No,
of it?
that's it. I just
Okay.
dropped this slide here showing a reduction and then where it's being funded. Sorry.
Okay, great. Thank you. So any questions on this item for Alex? Selectman Kokolas?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not really a question, but just a comment. If you look at where, like Alex mentioned, we're now down a little above 6% of the capital budget, where it was up over 8%. And just to make a point, this does not hit the tax levy, obviously, because it's being paid for out of free cash. And again, I'll reiterate, I believe we're fortunate over the last few years to have not pretty good. We have excellent financial management, and to be able to fund these programs at a bare base of and use our free cash of $2 million and then have a leftover of $2.1 million is a nice position to be in. As much as I'd like to lower the tax a little bit more, but you've done an excellent job in doing that. So I don't have any specific questions on this. Thank you.
Okay. Selectman Castro, do you have any questions?
I just feel like what Peter just said, but I did have a question, Alex, or Jill, about the cemetery. So we're removing $30,000 and it's down to zero. What was that $30,000 for?
That was for the cemetery fence repair and invasive, I think some landscaping removal. And I did speak to Dan Tobin, and he said that can be deferred to a later town meeting.
Okay, which we're not touching routine maintenance at the cemetery in general.
No, this was not routine maintenance. It was a fence repair and vegetation removal. So there's still the regular mowing and everything. And this would have been funded. It had a dedicated funding source, which will still stay there, but we'll just take another town meeting vote sometime in the fall.
Thank you. No other questions.
Okay. Selectman Metters?
No questions, thank you.
Selectman Dykens?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we started the capital budget around 2.8. Now it's around 2. So in the different iterations, you've taken it down like 800 grand or so. And I think you've done a nice job, done a good job. At some point, you do a great job kind of letting us know about the decreases. I'd like to know what we're still funding. And on the Fish Pier roof, is that an item that will maybe revisited at the special? I mean, we've invested heavily into the into the observation deck and stuff. And I just hope, we just keep up with what we need to keep up with. That's all. So at some point, and I can go back and do it. It's going to take some time, but I'd like to know what we're actually are funding in the capital budget. I think that'll be helpful. But thank you very much. You did a good job here.
Thank you, Jeff. You can see, the Fish Pier packing house roof will definitely be back. That is a deferral. That's not an elimination. That needs to be done. So we'll look to do that, have that approved at a special town meeting. Again, we look to see with everything going on and the timeline, probably the summer wasn't the best time to have that done anyway. So we'll probably have that back in September. And then on the memo that was provided on yesterday, we do have a detail of everything that is being recommended.
Okay,
so that's on page 2 and 3.
All right, thanks, Alex. Good job. Thank you.
Alex, remind me of the comprehensive storage plan. That was that a look-see at all we have available, or what was that?
Yeah, Terry Whalen had requested that to look at, town-wide, what storage is available and what's the best way to proceed. At this time, we felt that that's a nice thing to have, and it is needed. However, $50,000 for something that's a plan could be deferred for a later date.
Of course. Okay, thank you. Good job. All right, so any questions from the remote participants? So I'll take a list of folks that would like to speak on this matter. Okay, hearing none. I guess our next order is to vote to recommend is that what our next steps are?
Madam Chair, I would suggest, it's Jill, why don't we go through the rest of Alex's presentation and we'll take the vote, because I know everyone's anxious to see what the tax rate impact would be with everything. And she just has a few more slides to go.
Okay, great. Thanks. Sorry, Alex. Go ahead.
That's right. Thank you, Jill. Okay, other capital articles updates since May 4th. The dredging, $500,000. We're looking at a funding source change to free cash instead of using the tax levy. The child care network voucher, there is no change in that article as it was presented. The Eldridge Public Library, we gave the board an informational memo on some of our funding strategies, and we'll talk about that tonight. So again, the funding sources and using reallocation of existing funds to fund that project. And then OPEB, we've talked about previously on a reduced amount down from the 300,000 to 150,000 of available funds. And I'll run through each of these individually. So dredging. Dredging is very important. The board has considered that a priority, and the town has been very supportive of dredging in previous years. As Selectman Dyken said, we've usually fund this from the tax rate, but trying to provide as much relief as possible to the taxpayers, we're looking to change the funding source to free cash. So this would be what the motion would be to just appropriate the sum of $500,000 and to transfer it from free cash. And that provides a savings of just under 7 cents to the tax rate. And then looking at that free cash, because we've said how important free cash is to have going forward, free cash was certified at 5.2 million. Special town meeting in January used almost $480,000 of free cash. March used 75,000. For the annual town meeting, we have prior year bills of 4,798,000 to come from free cash, and then dredging of 500,000. Plus the capital budget, which is now reduced to the $2,074,145, will leave us a balance of $2,144,324 moving forward, plus any local estimated receipts in FY 2020 in excess of our estimates would also add to that balance, and any turnback, should we have any, with all these extra COVID-19 expenses that we're incurring. We won't know what that balance will be, but we'll try to get free cash certified as quickly as possible once we close the fiscal year. But having a balance moving forward of the 2.1 million is a very healthy balance to build on. So that was the sorry.
Madam Chair. So,
Yes, go ahead.
So Alex, basically you've reduced the capital budget about 400K and put dredging back in. So the net is, we're about where we were before, in other words. I get it. Okay.
Yeah, that is correct. However, the savings is in the tax levy.
Yeah, you got 7 cents on the levy. Thank
Yeah.
you. Yep, thanks.
Any more, Alex?
Madam Chair,
Yeah, go ahead.
can I ask a question regarding dredging, Alex? So it's 500,000 there in free cash. The January 4th special town meeting was 479. Wasn't a good chunk of that for dredging as well?
No, we had anticipated dredging on the March 7th annual special town meeting, but we withdrew it at that time because we didn't need it. We said we'll put it on the annual. So the special town meeting in January, there were budget adjustments, mostly to cover DPW with the tornado and the wind damages.
Okay, I couldn't remember what it was for. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. I assume you're going to go back to the prior slide and talk about the other capital articles.
Yes, I have a couple articles coming forward.
Okay,
Slides.
thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes, go. Yeah.
I'm just gonna ask one more question since we just had a couple on the dredging. The dollar amount of $500,000, that is being driven by the, I guess, expectation that we're gonna have to deal with market rate entities to do the work and not using the county dredge. Is that correct?
I spoke to Dr. Duncanson. I'm not sure if he's on this call. The 500,000 is needed, whether it's market rate. We always look to the county first, but we are quickly depleting our dredging accounts, and we have 150,000 in the capital plan moving forward for our annual dredging. But again, not knowing what's going to happen, especially at the Stage Harbor entrance, it's good to have this amount there so we can respond when needed.
All right, thank you.
Okay. So moving forward, and again, the board does not need to take action on this tonight, but we thought we would mention it because it has been a priority. The child care network voucher for $75,000, priority both of the Board of Selectmen, Chatham 365, and the Economic Development Council. There's no change in the funding source now. It's still coming from the tax rate. It is an increase over the prior year funding of $25,000. Again, it's less than it's about 1 cent to the tax rate. So we felt that this could stay on the tax rate and has wide support from various boards. All right. Any questions on the child care voucher? I think that's pretty straightforward.
Go ahead, Alex.
Okay. Eldridge Public Library. This is for the building shell repairs, and we originally were looking at a project of about 1.3 million with $206,200 coming from the Community Preservation Act funds. A reduced scope for this is $701,800, which is for those items that really can't be put off and will help secure the building. So again, this is changing, and then, so it's a reduced scope, and then we're changing the funding sources. When we looked at this, we presented it at coming from the tax levy and the Community Preservation Act funds. So presented before, it was $495,600 from the tax levy and $206,200 from CPA funds. Again, looking to provide as much relief as possible we could to the tax rate. We looked to see if there was an available source of funds or another funding source. And you might recall the Eldridge Public Library Master Site Plan, or the landscape article that was approved a couple of years ago. So right now, that project has available funds, and speaking with Terry Whalen and also in consultation with the library director, we felt that prioritizing the building, securing the building was the most important thing to do. And then we can replenish the funds for the landscape article at a future town meeting. So the landscape article, we're projecting, we're proposing to use $443,600 from that old article, $52,000 from the tax levy, and then again, the same amount from the Community Preservation Act. Sorry, my clocks are chiming. From the Community Preservation Act, $206,200 to get to the 701,800. $52,000 on the tax rate is less than 1 cent. And again, this was considered to be a priority rather than the landscape article, but with the commitment that we would replenish those funds at a future town meeting. So again, looking at this, it's the library building shell, it's particularly the roof. It's in need of repair, takes priority over the landscape project. I already said that, you know, it's already reduced in scope to those items necessary to protect the building. And again, to protect the building, we will hopefully avert any costly repairs that might be necessary should further damage happen. So again, by funding it this way, we'll save approximately 6 cents on the tax rate. And that's it for the library. I'm happy to answer any questions. And I believe Terry Whalen is also attending, should you have any technical questions on that.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, Madam-
Yes, go ahead, Dean. I thought you might have questions on this.
Thank you. I attended the library, or participated in the library meeting last week, the library board meeting, and discussed with them the whole question of urgency of the roof repair in particular, and then I communicated to you, Madam Chair, and the town manager, their interest and desire to see that go forward as quickly as possible. So I'm happy to see that you come up with this creative approach. And my question, Alex, is, and you mentioned we would refund the landscape article at some point, perhaps as early as a fall town meeting. Is that a realistic possibility? I realize everything is in flux these days. And also, is the library director on board with this sort of approach?
Thank you. Yeah, we had a conference call with the library director, and while she would like to see, you know, everything funded right now, understands the, you know, fiscal pressures that we're under, and we did make the commitment that we would replenish that landscape article as well as fund the amount of the, you know, the reductions from in the scope of the entire project. So there is a commitment to fund the entire building shell project as well as replenish those funds, whether they come from free cash or another available source at the special town meeting, but to get those on the next warrant as quickly as possible.
Well, thank you. I appreciate this is a kind of a delicate balance, as with so many of the other expenditures for 2021, and I think it's really important that in the end we're able to do the roof repair as well as provide, I think, a significant enough savings to the taxpayer, and 6 cents on the tax rate is significant enough as far as I'm concerned. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Okay, great. Anybody else have some questions on the library? Corey? Go ahead, Peter.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, I also want to say thank you for what you did on this. It's innovative. I guess to follow up a little bit on what Dean said, I don't have a problem with it going to a special town meeting. We've already made a commitment to the library, and I think it's appropriate that we can finish the landscaping. But will all the issues, I guess the question is, do we know whether the issues will be resolved as far as the landscaping program, because it has been put on delay for a number of reasons, they think by this fall, or would it go to the next town meeting? And just let me make one other point. This is 6 cents plus 7 cents on the last one. That's a considerable savings, and I'm glad you were able to do that, and we were able to look at it, because they are very they're critical issues that we have to take care of, especially if you think of the roof of the library and dredging. They're top priorities within the town. Thank you.
Okay, great. Corey, any comments?
No, I just appreciate the creativity in putting this, library building shell article together. It's about teamwork and planning for the future and dealing with the present. So I'm supportive of this.
Great. Jeff, any comments?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good job, great job, good finesse, creative solution. You prioritize correctly, and it's good that the library folks have gone along with it, and certainly prioritize the roof over the landscaping. I think that's smart, and it saves 6 cents in the tax rate. So good work all around. Good work.
Great. All right. Thank you. Alex?
Okay, moving on. I know we've spoken about the OPEB, the Other Post-Employment Benefits Trust Fund previously. This was presented at $300,000 with $150,000 coming from the overlay and $150,000 coming from the tax rate. Again, this was an easy way to save 2 cents on the tax rate, was just to have the amount reduced to the $150,000 from the overlay surplus. So again, I think this is a fairly straightforward article.
I also want to add that the OPEB trustees met a couple weeks ago virtually and supported this decision 5-0.
Thank you.
So are there any questions from the board? Okay.
Okay, so the actions that we're requesting of the board tonight are to vote the recommendations on the articles as they're noted here, the reduced operating budget, the reduced Monomoy Regional School District assessment, the reduced amount of the capital budget, the funding source for the dredging capital article, and the funding sources for the Eldridge Public Library building capital art project.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. I think that over the last few months, or yeah, actually it's months now, there's been a lot that's happened, and I think that you and the town manager have done a great job, and the staff to find ways that we could reduce the costs of operating our town. So saying that, our next steps are for recommending the fiscal year 2021 operating budget in the amount of $31,826,211. Do I have a motion to recommend that?
Madam Chair, it's Dean. I move to recommend approval to town meeting for the annual town meeting of the 2021
Okay.
operating budget as proposed.
Do I have a second from Peter? Any further comment from the board?
Nope.
Any further, anybody would like to speak to this from the remote participants? Okay, hearing none, I'll pull the board. Selectman Kokolas,
Aye.
Selectman Nicastro,
Aye.
Selectman Metters,
Aye.
Selectman Dykens,
Aye.
and the chair says aye. Okay, thank you. The next is to recommend the fiscal year 2021 Monomoy Regional School District assessment budget in the amount of $9,019,089.
Madam Chair.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, I recommend the fiscal year 2021 Monomoy Regional School District budget in the amount of $9,019,089.
Okay, thank you. Second?
Second.
Okay, Dean. Any further discussion?
No. No.
Anybody from the audience need to speak on this matter? Okay, hearing none, pooling the group. Selectman Kokolas,
Aye.
Selectman Nicastro,
Aye.
Selectman Matters,
Aye.
Selectman Dykens.
Aye.
The chair says aye. Okay. Moving to the next item is to recommend the capital budget in the amount of $2,439,345. Vote to recommend. A motion to recommend.
Madam Chair, this is Peter. It's a little less than that, and I'll make a
It's
motion.
less than.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah,
Please
recommend
state
the FY 2021 capital budget in the amount of $2,324,145.
Right. Thank
Second.
you for the correction.
Second.
Jeff, you second. Okay.
Yep.
Any further discussion? Any discussion, any questions from the remote participants? Hearing none, pull the group. Selectman Kokolas,
Aye.
Selectman Nacastro,
Aye.
Selectman Matters. Selectman Matters,
Aye.
Selectman Dykens.
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye. Okay, great. So the next is to formally transmit the revised fiscal year 2021 budget articles, operating capital and Monomoy Regional School District to the Finance Committee for their consideration. Do we have a motion?
Move to refer.
Second.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any questions or discussion from the remote participants? Hearing none. Selectman,
Chair, I guess the motion should have moved to transmit. I guess that's.
yeah, to transmit.
Second.
Second, okay. Selectman Kokolas,
Aye.
Selectman Nacastro,
Aye.
Selectman Metters,
Aye.
Selectman Dykens.
Aye.
Okay. So we move that. Okay, the next is to recommend the funding source for the dredging article in the amount of $500,000.
Move to recommend the funding source is free cash.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion from the group? Any discussion from the remote participants? Hearing none. Selectman Kokolas,
Aye.
Selectman Nacastro,
Aye.
Selectman Metters,
Aye.
Selectman Dykens.
Aye.
Says aye. Okay. Recommend the funding source of free cash for the, no, not free cash, I'm sorry. Recommend the funding source of, help me out here, guys.
For the library project?
Library.
Yeah, the library
Tax-
project.
Yeah,
Okay,
the tax levy of 52 and
Yep.
the breakdown is elsewhere from
right. Okay.
CPA funds and
CPA and
The transfer from
transfer
Right.
the library from the landscaping.
Right.
landscaping fund. Okay, thanks. Second on that, or no, we need a vote to, a motion. Somebody give me a motion.
I'll recommend, I'll offer the motion as proposed.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Any further discussion from the board? Any questions or further comments from the remote participants? Okay, hearing none, I'll pull the group. Selectman Kokolas,
Aye.
Selectman Nacastro,
Aye.
Selectman Metters,
Aye.
Selectman Dykens.
aye.
Chair says aye. Okay. That's completed. All right, next order of business is the review of the citizens petitions. Am I doing this right? I'm not sure how to go about this. Should we just ask if there's any of the citizen petitioners out there that would like to speak on their articles? Is that what we should be doing?
Madam Chair, I do know that Attorney Litchfield is here to speak on,
All right.
yes, on one of the petition articles. I don't know if you have your listing in front of you.
I'm sorry. I'm
So
looking
it's okay.
for it.
Let's see.
I did print it out.
Madam Chair, this is the protective zoning bylaw amendment,
Okay.
the extension of GB1 zone.
I got it right here. Okay. Mr. Litchfield, are you on? Would you like to speak?
I trust that I am, Madam Chairman.
Yes, I hear you.
Good afternoon or good evening. Bill Litchfield here on behalf of Ray and Judy Braz. I think Ray may be on by telephone, who are the owners of the Old Harbor Inn at 22 Old Harbor Road, immediately behind the Congregational Church. They have run the Old Harbor Inn for a quarter of a century or so, and it had been an inn before they acquired it. They have a fairly good-sized lot with a fair amount of room down in the rear. but notwithstanding that they have a non-conforming use of their property under zoning, they cannot expand the inn, which they would like to do. So over the years, we've talked to the Department of Community Development, I think Katie may still be on, about how best to go forward, and we determined that the simplest way would be to ask the voters to consider extending the GB zone to include most of the land now occupied by the inn, and thereby allow the inn to petition the Zoning Board of Appeals to add additional rooms. The inn is currently zoned R20, and while non-conforming, it can't, under current zoning, increase the number of rooms. This would also extend the GB1 zone parenthetically to include the rear portions of the commercial properties down on Main Street at 628, 636, and 640 Main Street, which is to say the commercial properties between the Congregational Church and the Black Dog, the zoning for which is now partially residential. So extending the zoning line back by 110 feet is consistent with the measurement back from Main Street in some locations, and frankly reflects existing land use. But changing the zoning to include less than all of the land at 22 Old Harbor Road would provide additional safeguards for the town and the neighborhood, in that any expansion of the hotel operation would still require approval of the Zoning Board of Appeals, which we think is appropriate. Ray and Judy have consulted with their neighbors. There's no neighborhood opposition. There is neighborhood support. And as you know, the community has lost scores of hotel and motel rooms over the years. But this established local business, which would like to expand and has land to do so, can't even seek permission under current zoning. So we are asking the town meeting to consider the proposal, and if the town meeting approves it, then we would still need to go before the Zoning Board of Appeals, which could impose appropriate conditions. And parenthetically, because not all of the land is being proposed to change to GB1, any future commercial use would still require Zoning Board of Appeals approval. Should also point out that the Brazos have no plans to turn the property over. In fact, their goal in a perfect world would be like to have the next generation take over, but they need more rooms. And as we know, it was a difficult economy before the last few weeks. It's always a difficult economy on the Cape in some ways, and the Brazos would like the opportunity to continue this business on. So we're asking first, we're explaining to you the situation. We also, finally, I would say briefly that we understand that June 22nd may be a very abbreviated town meeting, and the Brazos understand that this article might appropriately be put off to a special town meeting in the fall.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any comments from the board on this matter?
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Let's, Corey, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I think this one is reasonably presented, reasonably drafted. It is not an automatic allowance for an expansion of the inn. It is just an allowance to petition for the expansion of the inn. Also allowing or adding the parcels of 628, 636, and 640 Main Street. My assumption is that would avoid anything of spot zoning or any of concerns of that sense. So I think this is been drafted in a reasonable manner. I understand, I recognize the loss of some of our accommodations over the years. It's an established business. I think it's been run well. And to be frank, I'm very supportive of this.
Okay. Any other comments from the board?
Madam Chair.
Yeah, Madam Chair, this is Peter.
Go ahead, Pete.
I don't want to repeat what Corey said, but I agree with him wholeheartedly. My point was going to be, given that the other businesses are also going to be zoned GB1, or the area behind there, that we're not talking about spot zoning, which I think is good. And I think in that location, a few more rooms would be excellent, and I support it. Thank you.
Great. How about Jeff? Any comments?
Yeah, no, I echo both Selectman Meadows and Selectman Kokolas. I think we have lost scores of rooms, especially downtown, and I think it would be great to at least give the Braz the opportunity, whether it's this generation or the next generation, to add to that complement of rooms downtown. So I'm very much in favor of it. Again, it's a petition article. to the ZBA. ZBA still has to weigh in, and but it's well written, and I'm fully supportive. Thank you.
Okay, great. Go
Madam Chair.
ahead. Yes. Go ahead, Dean.
I agree with everything that's been said. I'm fully supportive of the opportunity to expand the number of lodging rooms in town. Do you want to take a motion now? As I said last Monday, I think we should make recommendations on all the petition articles, and whether they're going to be substantively discussed in June, or as I said earlier, I hope at a special town meeting. I'm happy to offer a motion to recommend approval of this article town meeting at the present time.
And if that is the motion, then I will accept it, and we'll ask for a second.
That is my motion.
Second.
Okay. Any further discussion on this matter? Any discussion from the audience? Hearing none, I'll pull the group. Selectman Nacastro.
Aye.
Selectman Kokolas.
Aye.
Selectman Metters.
Aye.
Selectman Dyken.
Aye.
And the chair says aye. All right, this has been recommended 5-0. Thank you, Attorney Litchfield,
Thank you very much.
and take care. All right, the next, is there any other citizen petition folks out there that want to make a presentation to the board tonight? Okay,
So
Madam-
Madam Chair,
yeah, go ahead.
so
Jill.
there's the petition article that doesn't have a vote is a protective zoning bylaw amendment, and that's the clarification and definition of sizes and exemption from coverage for
Oh, I see
small
it.
sheds.
Mhm.
The board
Okay,
received some correspondence that I'm not sure that the petitioner is going to offer a motion for that. And I know that they were trying to get someone here, but that was the sentiment that they had expressed in an email a few days ago.
okay,
So
it does.
you can take a vote on a recommendation. We're just not sure if they're going to offer a motion, but anyone can offer a motion at town meeting.
Okay, does anybody want to,
Well, Madam Chair, I mean, they had an opportunity earlier when this was presented to us a couple of weeks, or maybe a month ago, to present. I personally think we should make a recommendation in town meeting. I think the document is evident on its face. I do not favor it myself because I don't like granting in blanket fashion additional lot coverage as a matter of right. And I think applicants who want to place these sheds closer to the lot line have the opportunity currently to seek relief from the Zoning Board of Appeals, whether it's by way of, I guess, by way of a special permit. I don't know if a variance might be required in some instances, but that's my feeling on it. I would prefer that we button everything and have a recommendation on the warrant for each of the petition articles,
okay, you're making a motion on that?
as long as the petitioners have had the opportunity to step forward. Yes, I'll offer a motion. I'll offer it in the affirmative. I intend to vote against it. I move that we recommend approval of this to this petition article to town meeting.
Do I have a second on this?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion from the board?
Yeah,
Madam-
this is,
Okay.
Peter, go ahead. Peter, go
Go
ahead.
ahead, Peter.
okay. I recall I was on the planning board when this was, this came up, and maybe Corey has a better memory than I. Now, I think I understand what this says, and I understand what Selectman Castro said, but first, the existing language addresses storage sheds over 100 square feet and those under 100 square feet. So the first question is, what about 100 feet? That's what they want to get to. If you have a shed that's 10 by 10, and that's not an unusual shed, you could even, buy them that way, then you don't know, there's no real reason, you don't know what you have to do. And if I understand this, and I wish the sponsor was here. If you make it 100 feet, which is kind of what you wanted to do, it should be 100 feet or less. It would still fit into it still fits into what the bylaw was previously. And this is what I'm not too sure of when it comes to the lot coverage. I believe anything 100 feet or less, I think it's in the bylaw, if I read it a couple of months ago, allows for that lot coverage. So it could either be what Selectman DeCastro said, which is a blanket agreement for this, that it's different than before, or it's just an understanding that if it's a 10 by 10 shed and it's 100 feet, then we're going to have a specific requirement or a specific set of rules that we're following, which is to allow it just like it was 100 feet or under. That's a comment, and I'm sort of in between. I'm not sure exactly what this is meaning. Maybe Corey could help.
Corey.
No, I mean, I'm going to keep my comments pretty straightforward. I mean, as a matter of process, this really should have gone to the planning board. I mean, we've been dealing with sheds in the past and having discussions. So, and I'm not certain why a representative of the petitioners hasn't taken an opportunity to address this with the board. So, I think what was mentioned, maybe they will now be offering a motion on this. Let it come back, bring it before the planning board, let it get reviewed appropriately, and see if it has some merit by the voters. But as a petition article, I'm respectfully vote against it.
Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I
Well,
would-
Jeff, hold
I
on
would-
just a second, Peter, please. Jeff, did you have any other comment?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
If this comes back to us and having been scrubbed by the planning board, I think I understand its concept, and I would not be opposed. But it hasn't gone through the proper process, and there's no one here to defend it in or explain it. So I'm apt to vote against it. Again, if it goes through the right channels, I see little that bothers me, unless somebody highlights something different. But I could vote for this. Thank you. But I'm not
Okay.
going to vote for it tonight, but I could vote
All
for it.
right. Okay. Peter, did you have additional comments you wanted to make? Peter?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And all I was going to say, and I apologize for butting in, I was going to agree with Corey. That's true. Should go to the planning board first, period.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion? Did we already make a motion on this yet? I didn't think so.
I think I offered,
Okay, Dean, and it was seconded. I'm sorry, it's.
I can't recall who seconded it, but I did.
I didn't make a note. Is
think
there a
so.
second on that?
I think Peter seconded it.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yes, I did.
Okay, great, thank you. Any discussion from the remote participants on this matter? Okay, hearing none, I'm going to pull the group. Selectman Kokolas,
No.
Selectman Nicastro,
No,
Selectman Metters,
No.
Selectman Dykens.
No,
The chair says no. Okay. All right. Jill, were there any others that we needed to look at tonight? The petition
Yes.
articles?
There's
ahead.
one more, a petition article to adopt MGL Chapter 59, Section 5C and a half, 5C 3 and 4. It's a residential real estate tax exemption, and I don't know if the petitioner is with us tonight.
Okay. Are the petitioners with us tonight on this petition? The contact was Mr. Taylor. I was wondering if he was on. Okay. Any discussion on this article from the board?
Yeah, Madam Chair, I have a comment on this. Conceptually, I don't have a problem with this. Chatham 365 recommended that the board take a look at this type of an article. The board did discuss it somewhat. It is also something that the assessor looks at every year for us. At least at the time, the way I remember, at least the way I was looking at this should go to the assessor. What we have is not a clear understanding of what this would do. My problem with it, not that it might help some people, but will it help the people that need to be that are needed? We're in like we said, keep on saying it, but it is, we're in uncharted areas. We have lots of people that are going to be hurting. We know how many low income people we have in our middle income. They're going to be a lot more. They're going to need this. So the issue is, this is a general tax change. And if you look at our town, we are going to, if we allow this, there are a number of people that are generally able to take care, to be able to weather the Chatham, weather this crisis that we're in. And I don't know how many of that is. There are a lot more, there are a number of people that also are going to need help. I believe we should focus our help on those that need it. For instance, if you give a 20% tax relief to someone that can handle it, they're in a higher assessed, let's say, home, they're going to get a greater advantage, so that lesser money would go to those that would need it. That's my problem. I don't have the data. We don't have evidence that shows that this will help to the greatest extent possible those people that need it, and we're going to need to use all of our funds to focus that. And it's going to be wider than we expected. Similar to, I hate to use this as an example because it's not municipal funding, but the community action on COVID relief, which was an effort that focuses funds on the needs that are there. So that's my problem with it. We're making a decision, trying to make a decision that 20%, that could be something less or greater than 20%. And we haven't had any data to show that it really is going to work. We know that it's used in other towns, and we know that it causes a lot of problems with some of these other towns. So I think it's just premature to do it. I think we need to do the study on it. And I think what Chatham 365 was trying to tell us is, let's get the data and get it done. So I may not have been articulate enough on that, but basically my point is, we have limited funds, and we need to use them properly. And it seems like, you put a broad tax relief out there, and it gets swept up, not necessarily by all the people that need it.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Any other comments from the board?
Madam Chair.
Yes, Selectman DeCastro.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This issue has been before the Board of Selectmen several times during my tenure on the board for consideration. And as we all understand, it's a fairly divisive issue as between those that are year-round residents and those who are seasonal residents. We've seen some of that play out in some of the outer Cape towns that have adopted this, and there is only a small number of towns who have adopted this, and we don't have a whole lot of experiential data from the towns on the outer Cape that have. But we were given some data by our staff in the past from the finance department, and so it's not as though we've never looked at it. What bothers me about this is not so much the general notion that a further consideration might be in order, but it is a highly detailed prescription on what the town's executive should, namely the Board of Selectmen, should be doing. It doesn't just say, go consider, please, we request that the Board of Selectmen consider adopting a residential tax exemption. It lays out the specific terms of the exemption at 20%, and also dictates that going forward on an annual basis, the board consider raising it, but in no instance reducing it below 20%. So to me, it's a minute micromanagement of the executive decision-making authority of the Board of Selectmen as laid out in the general laws. And as anyone who's listened to me for 5 years, I'm constantly supporting the authority of the Board of Selectmen to make executive decisions. And so I'm going to offer a motion in the affirmative, which I intend to vote against, to recommend approval of this to the town meeting, annual town meeting 2020.
Okay, Dean, I know that, you know, when we've been discussing this, this has been part of the 365 recommendations and the economic development recommendations to look at this. And I understand where you're coming from on that. Jeff, do you have any comments on this?
I won't repeat what's already been said. I just think that it is too highly prescribed. Who knows if it's 20% or not? You know, how much relief will we really bestow, and who will be bestowed upon? We need a lot more study. Conceptually and philosophically, I've always been opposed to this. However, I believe that with the efforts of Chatham 365 and the Economic Development Committee, that I'm certainly willing to take a real good hard look at it. Whether I support it or not, I don't know yet, but I think it does deserve further study, and it's worthy of further study. I am not going to vote in favor of this petition article, but I am amenable to study in the future, certainly. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jeff. Corey, did you comment on this?
I have not, but basically, I know before this whole COVID-19 thing kind of kicked in, the Economic Development Committee had identified this as an item that they were going to have some discussion on, and do some roundtable discussions and research on their own a little bit further. Of course, things got sidetracked with the pandemic. But I mean, I'm not opposed to having this conversation. I'm a little nervous or concerned about putting in an action that would have a hard number right now, because we don't know what the future is going to hold and how the economic numbers are going to play out. So locking in something with a number right now with so many unknowns, in my opinion, I'm just not comfortable with doing. I mean, I'm happy to have the conversation, but not in the manner that it is crafted in this petition. So thank you.
Thank you. Do we have somebody want to make a motion on this? Or
Madam Chair, I did offer a motion, but
okay.
it has not been seconded.
It has not been seconded.
I will
Second. I'll second. Yeah, whatever.
Sounds like Corey seconded
Yep,
first.
Corey seconded.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion from the board? Any discussion from the remote participants? Hearing none, I'll pull the board. Selectman Nicastro.
No.
Selectman Kokolas.
No.
Selectman Matters. Selectman Matters. I think we
He's
froze.
frozen.
Selectman Matters.
Froze up.
No.
Nay.
Nay. Okay. Selectman Jenkins.
Nay.
And the chair says nay. Okay. All right. So that. All right. Is there anything else on the petition articles that we need to discuss, Jill?
No, so the next step for you would be to order the warrant and designate which articles you would want to offer the motion on. And then final action on this would be to close the warrant.
Okay.
Shauna, oh, she's already on it.
Okay. Shauna, all right. You have it. You're going to pull it up. Thank you.
So at this time, we're at a 40 article annual town meeting, and articles. So you have it in front of you, and we had emailed it separately to the board. So I'm not sure if we've filled in the votes that were taken tonight, but essentially take a look at it, determine if you want to reorder it, and then once you're set with that, then you can decide who wants to offer the motion for the articles.
Okay, so is there any change in the order of the articles that the board wants to make a recommendation on?
Madam Chair, I have a question, and it's something that we've had I've seen on a couple of, I think on an email. I'm not sure, but it has to do with the COA. Normally, we put the petition articles are always at the end on stepping stone, and we still have 1610 on the warrant, although it's not on the election ballot. Does it make a difference? I mean, the only reason we put the 1610 kept it on this is because of the potential of somebody making a motion for stepping stone. Trying to be, I guess, does it make a difference where that happens? It could potentially. I I guess I'm not savvy enough to understand exactly what could happen during town meeting.
So we have a couple of options. One is that if you leave it as is, someone at town meeting could then ask for the article to be moved up. Or you can order them now because it's likely that one discussion will probably compare against the other article. So that's something to consider. So that the articles for the petition articles at the end, this is a practice. There's no requirement that they have to be in a certain order.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Dean.
I think I appreciate Peter bringing this up, and I hear what Jill just said. As the party who insisted that 1610 stay on the warrant to protect it, I'd like to see the resolution of whether stepping stones is going to be discussed or deferred taken up early in the meeting. So I think we should take all the petition articles, I think there are 8 of them, and place them immediately after the opening opening 8 administrative articles. Make it, have them all listed right after item 8. And presumably, someone could offer a motion to defer all 8 of them to a special town meeting with a definite date. You'd have to. And I have no problem with putting 1610 Main Street right after that, so nobody who is in favor of stepping stones would be concerned that something's going to be done there, because I think certainly my expectation and hope that 1610 itself would be deferred to special town meeting. But that's one suggestion I make about that. The other has to do with the remaining articles on CPA. Jill mentioned that there are 40 articles, but if you can deal with eight petition articles in one fell swoop, and then you can deal with the half dozen or so CPA articles in one fell swoop, that's pretty quick disposal of a good chunk of the articles at town meeting, and then we can deal with the budget and the others. So I wouldn't mind the CPA articles being done up front too, and then people who want to hang around for the budget can, and the financial articles. But that's
Dean, I do
Madam
like
Chair?
your recommend. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with Selectman Castro's sentiment and in the reordering. I would just suggest if we could do exactly as he described with the petition articles, but do it after we vote the most critical articles that are going to be presented at this annual town meeting, which I would suggest that we do that after number 15, as it's listed here, after the Monomoy Regional School District Pig Fund. Then I would have those petition articles be presented, and then 1610 thereafter. But I would like to get the business of the town done before we start in on petition articles, et cetera.
Okay.
That's okay with, I'm sorry for interrupting, Steve.
Fine, Dean, go ahead.
That's fine with me. Jeff, did you want to include the 2 capital items for the library and well, I guess there are 3, judging and child care, or not?
Yes, I consider those part of the core business of the town for this annual. Yes, yeah. I mean, it's all core business, but yeah, to your point, I think we should get that kind of core business done before we go on to petition articles in 1610.
Okay.
Okay, do we have any other comment about that recommendation from both Selectman Castro and Selectman Dykens?
Yeah, I would agree, Madam Chair.
Okay,
I
Jill.
would agree also.
Okay, Corey, Jill.
Yeah, I would agree with Selectman Dykens. I don't know, we really don't know what's going to happen on June 22nd, nor where we're going to have it. So if we can take care of the more pressing business, adopting the budgets, that would be my preference. And so however the board wants to do it, I would say after Article 15 would be my recommendation. And those usually go pretty quickly. I don't think my budget presentation's, over 5 minutes. So
Okay.
I think that would be my preference.
All right. Do we want to take a vote on that, Jill, or are you good with what you're hearing from consensus here?
Well, I just want to make sure we're clear because we need to
Okay.
get the warrant to print next week.
Mhm.
So are we clear that our 1 through 15 remaining as is, or did you want to restrict?
Yeah, and then I would add, if there's an article, is there an article there for the dredging and for the Elders Library? So I would move those up to be 16 and 17 or whatever.
Those are 20,
Um,
20, let me see, it's
I can't
20.
curse down.
26
Yeah.
is voucher program, 27 is the dredging. The Eldridge Library is 18. 18.
So Jill, I would just array those right after 15, after the PEG article, the Monomoy Regional School District. And then after those three, then the petition articles and 1610.
Madam Chair, it's Peter.
Yes.
How about the OPEB trust? 28.
Yeah, you can put that in there too. That's a good idea, Peter.
Are you clear, Jill, on that?
No, I
we're
had to
all-
step away. So Shauna, are you clear on it?
Shauna.
Shauna?
Oh, sometimes she loses her mic when she's,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Well,
So-
that's, we can,
So you
You're
reiterate,
good through number 15,
okay.
and then dredge,
Mhm.
library, OPEB, voucher, petition, 1610. Or some array of that, but pushing the petition 1610 down below the core business of the town, including those 3 articles or 4 articles.
Okay, you want the petition first for the stepping stone orders.
Yeah, that's critical. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want the petitions the petition article that might consider stepping stones to be before 1610. That's the critical array.
what about the transfer station on number 17?
Yeah, that's actually will be a ballot question on the ballot for June 25th.
Yeah, so that's on as a warrant article.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's important too, Dean. That's a good point. I would add that prior to the petition articles as well.
So we're talking 17, 18, 26, 27, and 28.
Right. Yeah, I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
It's hard to tell, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And everything else stays in place. That includes the water stuff. And I know those are financial articles, but if we start rolling everything else in, we're not going to accomplish what we want to.
Okay. Are you clear on that, Jill?
Yes. So the next
Okay.
thing, and just using how they're ordered now, just so we get it right, who would want to offer the motion for the respective articles?
Okay. So is there any particular motions that anybody wants to make on any particular articles? Or do we want to just go down in rotation throughout the different articles? Thoughts on that?
Rotation is fine with me. The chair usually presents the budget, I guess.
Operating budget. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take that.
I'm good with it.
Okay. Corey?
I'm good with, I'm flexible.
Okay.
As am I.
All right. So I'd make the recommendation that it goes chair, vice chair, clerk, and then I don't know who has Corey, and then just how we're seated, perhaps when we're together as the rotation. If that's okay.
Fine,
Yeah,
whatever.
I think the chair usually does the operating budget. It's tradition. I think that's important.
Okay, I will do that.
So I think you do 9, Madam Chair.
Okay, that's fine.
And
So the first motion, I'm sorry.
the items, excuse me, Jill, the items that come before the operating budget up at the top, I'll leave that to Jill and Shauna to order, but the chair is starting first and then rotating. It would seem to me.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's going to start on prior year bills. That's usually the first
Right.
item.
Okay.
Okay, so then that means the board we'd accept a motion to close the warrant.
Okay, I'll accept a motion to close the warrant.
Move to
So moved.
close.
Second.
Okay, moved by Jeff, seconded by Dean. All right, I'll pull the group. Selectman Kokolas,
Aye.
Selectman Nicastro,
Aye.
Selectman Metters,
Aye.
Selectman Dykens,
Aye.
and the chair says aye. All right, good job, everyone. Yay, completed. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the next order of business is consider regional guidance to the Cape and Island seasonal residents and visitors. Okay. So, Shauna, do you want me to say this or did you? I don't even know if we know Shauna's still around. Is she there?
I'm still here.
Yeah, hi.
So this was received from Senator Sear, asking the town leadership if they would like to sign on to the seasonal guidance to the seasonal community, if you'd like to sign on as a co-sponsor.
So basically, this is just recommendations and guidance for the seasonal community. It's in the packet. And I just heard today that Bourne signed on. I'm not sure how far they've gotten on sign-ons for the rest of the towns. I just happened to hear that today. But I'd accept a motion on this or discussion if anybody has any questions or wants to comment on this before we make a motion. Peter, do you have any comments on this?
No, Madam
Peter?
Chair, I don't. I support it.
Okay, Dean? Dean, I think you're muted, Dean. Okay. Jeff, are you still there?
Yes, I am, and I'm in support. Thank you. I'm in support.
All right. Corey?
Yeah, I'm on the fence on this one, to be very honest with you. I'm not opposed to having a collective support, program out there at all. I'm just a little concerned it's a little too soft. I guess I'm a little more in the opinion that I'd rather see bullet points knowing, this is good, this is bad, this is the steps we were requiring, this is the steps we requiring you to take or requesting you. I just think it's a little on the softer side, and I'm also concerned that some of the stuff may not have the expectation of achieving. I mean, if someone has a summer house down here, they may, the spouses may take two different cars. One spouse may come back and forth on the weekends. They may have children who have licenses who may travel back and forth. So the 2-week quarantining thing, I guess I don't know if I'm so optimistic that it's going to be achievable. I know this is a very delicate subject, and I'm not completely opposed to it. I just think it's a little bit on the softer side for my liking.
And I'm guessing that this is a guidance, and I think it's just trying to create the beginning of some consistent messaging amongst the municipalities to have like a cohesive message. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of changes that are going to happen, but Jeff, you talk? Peter, Dean, did you have any comment on this?
Yeah, I just kind of want to echo some of what Corey said. I think it's important to have a consistent message across the 15 towns. And now we've got this task force that you're a part of. And I think by its terms, it's subject to revision as events dictate. And we're going to hear more from the governor leading up to the 18th and his reopening task force headed up by the lieutenant governor. So I guess I'm okay with it. And I must say, I was talking with a seasonal resident yesterday who serves on one of our boards. And it's a real quandary for them to try to decide whether to come up here or not. They love Chatham a lot. And at the same time, They want to be respectful of circumstances that might emerge going forward. So I think as long as we understand that the guidance is an evolving document and can be supplemented. I mean, if we're looking for a vote tonight, I'd be happy to support it. If we want to wait until after Monday's forum, that's another option too, I suppose. But those are my comments.
Okay, thank you. Anybody want to offer a motion on this tonight?
All right, Madam Chair, I move that the board endorse the regional guidance to Cape and Island seasonal residents and visitors and join as signatories.
Okay, second. If you're seconding, Jeff, I can't hear you. You're muted.
Yeah, I'll second it. I have a comment as well.
Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm comfortable. I understand where Corey's coming from. I do, but I'm comfortable that it's effective as of, we're signing on May 7th, and there's likely to be new guidance coming either post May 18th and or beyond that regionally. So it pretty much summarizes what's in place now. So that's why I'm comfortable saying aye to this and why I'm comfortable accepting it, because it's pretty much what we have in place now. Whether it goes far enough, Corey, that's a great point. More to come. And we have a good voice with Shireen there too. So that's why I'm comfortable voting in the affirmative. Thanks.
Okay, we've heard from everybody. We have a second. We have motion a second. Any discussion from the remote participants on this? Looks like mostly staff is left here. Okay, seeing none, I'll take a poll. Selectman Kokolas.
Aye.
Selectman DeCastro.
Aye.
Selectman Matters.
With the understanding that this is going to be an involvement document, aye.
Okay. Selectman Dykens.
Yep, aye.
And chair says aye. Okay, and Shauna, we need a signature on that. I guess I'll authorize that a remote signature be my electronic signature or stamp go on that, I guess would be the best approach.
We got a camera.
Yeah. Okay, so our next order of business is, hold on, my agenda is getting buried here. Consider regional community development block grant from Truro. Shauna, did you want to speak to this a little bit? I did have a conversation with the people from CDP today on this, just briefly.
I would think that either you or Alex would have more information than I do.
Okay. Alex, did you have any information on this from?
No, I don't have any more information.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right.
So
Well,
I do.
I'm not voting.
I asked Jay, I asked the director of CDP if he'd like to join the meeting tonight, but he said he'd check it out, but that was it. It looks like the CDP has been working with other community development programs along the state to develop a community block grant that would be funded for small businesses and some rental assistance. Boyd and Associates, Alice Boyd, Bailey Boyd and Associates is working on the grant. I guess the CDP has done is working on some assessment of what kind of businesses are out there and what they may need. But the idea that we would have a regional option for some relief for small businesses would be a great idea. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. So the ask is that we vote to participate in the grant and to sign the copies as a joint authorization form for them to continue the process. So that's all I have. If you've
Madam
read
Chair,
the text, yes, go ahead.
I have a little bit more on it. So
Good.
I think this is a really exciting program for us. We haven't been eligible for the federal Community Development Block Grant Program because of the size and certain other factors. There's a wealth component and property values too. So Yarmouth and like the towns of or city of Gloucester, they're offering some pretty cool programs that we haven't been able to offer to our businesses, which could be small business loans and also rental assistance. So I'm really grateful that Town of Truro wants to take the lead on it, and this is offered through basically the COVID-19 Federal CARES Act response to it, and I would recommend that the board join Truro with this effort.
Okay, thank you, Jill.
Madam
Yes.
Chair,
Yes.
just a question of either you or Jill. Do we know if any other towns have signed on with Truro? Are we the first one being asked, or?
I didn't ask the question. That was a brief phone call that I had today. Jill, do you have any?
It said that they had 8 towns, and there's a public hearing coming up pretty quickly, so I'd imagine that they've had support, but I can check tomorrow and then email the board and follow up.
I will just say from my historical experience up in Quincy, CBD block grant monies were very helpful resource for the community to do a lot of different things in town that the municipal budget couldn't handle. So
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I'm going to support this.
Madam Chair, I'm very supportive as well. I see very little downside, if no downside, for Chatham and its residents and businesses. I see nothing but upside, so I'm
Great.
very supportive. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments from the board?
Madam Chair, this is Peter. Just a quick question, if Jill knows. How is it administered with all the people that are involved? In other words, is there a board that looks at it, or do our businesses send in an application, or how's it handled?
It's usually a third party, and I think that's what the community development CBD, sorry, so many acronyms.
Yeah, right.
I know Katie's on this call too, if Katie, you have any information from your past experience, but usually that there's a third party that administers it.
Yeah, that's fine. If that's the case,
Fine. Okay. Any other comments? Is there a motion on this?
Madam Chair, I move to participate in the should it say FY19? That's what it says. FY19 CDBG CV grant for small business and micro enterprise loans, along with rental and mortgage subsidies programs, and that we sign 2 copies of the joint authorization form as provided.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
It does say FY19,
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
Yes.
All right.
whatever it is.
Whatever that fiscal year is. Second, any further discussion on this? Any discussion from the audience? Okay, well, seeing none, I'll pull the group. Selectman DeCastro,
Aye.
Selectman Metters, Selectman Kokolas,
Aye.
Selectman Dykens,
Aye.
Selectman Metters.
Aye.
Okay, and the chair says
Unmute.
aye. I got you. Chair says aye, so that passes. Okay, that does it for our order of business. The next thing we need to do is move into an executive session. Does somebody want to make a motion on that? Oops, sorry.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
This is
Yep.
under agenda item Roman numeral 3, executive session, MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21, Number 6. Madam Chair, I move under Mass General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21, Number 6, that we go into executive session to consider the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, parenthesis, potential affordable housing property, close parenthesis, and the chair declares that an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the negotiating position of the public body with no return to open session.
Thank you, Dean. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, I'll roll call. Selectman Kokolas,
Aye.
Selectman DeCastro,
Aye.
Selectman Metters,
Aye.
Selectman Dykens.
Aye.
The chair says aye. Thank you. We're going into executive session. We'll reconvene in 5 minutes. Thank you.